locations. We're looking here not at places that set up in a parking lot at a grocery store or build a set. These are real, actual locations, places that existed that decided to use the Halloween season in an interesting way. So we're going to have, as the title implies, some mansions from a historical museum, an actual cemetery that houses a haunt, and the Queen Mary, a real ocean liner and a hotel. There's going to be a slight historical aspect, especially to the first two. You know, these are not necessarily, at least the first two, scary haunts. They're about history, using Halloween to bring the ghosts of the dead back to life in order to give you some lessons about what happened in the past. So we'll have representatives from the Heritage Square Museum, from Pioneer Cemetery, and the Queen Mary. First up, we're going to have Sara Reeve. Come on up. Guide and a host at Heritage Square Museum. They've been going for about 10 or so years now. And basically it's a historical tour. It's a real place, real mansions from around Los Angeles. They weren't all there originally. They were moved there intact. And they're Victorian era, perfect setting for Halloween. You go there and you can learn about Victorian customs regarding death, dying, mourning, spiritualism, and Sara, besides being a host, also acts as Madame Serafina.
Madame Serafina, the spiritualist.
Okay, so what I want to talk about, you actually attended before you became part of the show. So what was your first experience when you went to Heritage Square?
So Halloween has always been my favorite holiday, and so my first experience with Heritage Square Museum was hearing a story on KBCC's off-ramp about this neat Halloween experience. I said, that's what I want to go to. So I went as just an attendee, wandered through the houses, got to see the exhibits, and in one of the houses that was dressed up from an Art Deco period, they had people in 1920s morning attire, very different from an 1870s morning attire. And I started talking to one of the volunteers and just said, well, gosh, this is something I want to do. How do I get involved?
So when you became involved, originally they used to do a demonstration of spirit photography.
Right.
Now you do a seance. So
yes.
Is that your idea? How'd you talk them into that?
No, it wasn't actually my idea. We have a very involved group of volunteer committee members who are constantly trying to think of new and interesting ideas to bring to the festival. And so the spiritualism came about because obviously spiritualism was a huge movement that happened in the United States and much of the world from the 1860s up through the 1930s. If you think of Harry Houdini trying to debunk the spiritualists and Sherlock Holmes being a huge spiritualist, this was a massive.
Arthur Conan Doyle, the author.
Sorry, of course.
Sherlock was not.
Sherlock was not a spiritualist. Sorry,
yes.
Arthur Conan Doyle. And so we decided, we really need to bring in spiritualism. We had always had fortune tellers as a feature, but then we decided, we really need to try and stage a seance.
So everything there is authentic. I mean, you stage a seance, but you don't use special effects to make us think there's real ghosts. You do the little wrapping stuff that would have been fake at the time when you do this.
Absolutely.
Now, is it scripted? Now, you invite some people, guests, to be involved, but you also have actors. How scripted is it? Because it seems different.
It really requires the actors who are involved to be on your feet because it's very much improv. The actors will get together an hour or so before we open and say, okay, this is what we're doing. What's your character going to be for today? And we will kind of roughly come up with a few scenarios, but we have to be very open because some people really do want to participate and they want to say, I want to talk to, my uncle who passed away 2 years and we have to run with it. And so you have to be very open to the mood of the people, how much they want to participate. Some people just want to sit and watch and act like it's a tableau, and other people really want to get into it.
Do you have many people that believe you're a real medium?
Absolutely. And it's really frightening because I am not a believer in the supernatural at all, and so I have to be very respectful of the people that really, really believe, and they really believe that I am talking to their uncle, their grandfather, or their dead cat. So we have to be very respectful, first of all, and we want to engage them. And when I've been doing this for a few years, and so when I can sense that somebody's really into it, I basically just try to kind of guide them to say, okay, this is what the Spirit is telling me. The Spirit's telling me he's at peace. He is very happy with the life that you are living now, and you know, he wants you to be satisfied with the choices you make. And I just try and leave it like that as much as I can. But we definitely get people that really, you know, they'll go to our fortune tellers and be like, should I stop taking the medicine that my doctor's prescribing me? And I'm like, talk to your medical professionals. That is not our job.
Yeah, so last year you had like a little girl who was talking to her grandmother.
Yes, yes.
Play along with that.
Yes, well, I think that actually might have been my daughter, who luckily is in on it. But yes, no, we do get people that want to talk to their real relatives, and we have to be very respectful of that.
Okay, so obviously the seance is only one part. You're in one room. Tell people what else is going on. There's a funeral procession. There's multiple different activities that are happening around the museum. We do have typically we'll have one of the houses, one of these beautiful Victorian mansions that we have. Designed as the house of spiritualism. So in the front parlor, we might have the tarot card readers, someone who's reading palms. We have the seance in the back room. In another house, we'll have educational activities to talk about different Victorian mourning customs, whether that is spirit photography, just mourning photography in general, mourning hair art, mourning jewelry, and then we'll have another house done up for to explain and show off kind of a gallery of different mourning fashions from the Civil War up through World War I, and explaining the various intricacies because particularly for women it could be very, very strict. Right. I learned the difference between casket and coffin.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Rectangle,
yes.
Casket, coffin has six sides.
Exactly. And yeah, one of the biggest attractions that we have is the funeral procession, which we do twice a day, and we literally have a small coffin that we can carry. Have pallbearers. We walk down. We have an 1897. Church on our property as well, and so we actually hold the funeral right outside. We actually have a grave dug. You won't believe how many people want to take a picture inside of the grave. And we'll offer a eulogy.
Just for the audience, this is the Heritage Square. These first 40 seconds or so.
Absolutely.
You'll see little bits of the seance.
And the funeral procession. And we give a eulogy. We try to really incorporate a real historical educational aspect, because we typically pick a person that really lived in Los Angeles at this time that passed away to do a eulogy around, whether that's a few years ago when we had the 100th anniversary of the Titanic disaster. We actually did a funeral of a man from Los Angeles who was lost on the Titanic, and we had it scripted with his wife and his child, and so this year we're actually doing something a little bit new in that we're shifting it and giving it, the funeral at least, a bit of a 1930s noir mob feel and bringing in real LA mobsters, and trying to partner with the LA Police Historical Museum as well to make it a little bit.
It develops from year to year.
Absolutely, we try and keep it fresh.
The display on memento mori, pictures of the dead, and spirit photography is very interesting. I don't know if you know, there used to be this custom that people who didn't have pictures taken of their relatives while alive, that was their last chance after they died, and photographers specialized in trying to pose the body to look as if he was just relaxing or sleeping.
Yeah.
And
very
dogs,
common.
pets.
But very common for children. You figure, at a time when photography was very expensive, you might only get a photo when you got married. And so if a child died, that child may never have been photographed before. So for a parent who wants to keep that kind of memento, they would often stage a photo of the child looking as if they were asleep, so that they had something to remember that child.
Right. And the spirit photography is interesting too, because it's all obviously fake. To our 21st century eyes, it's amazing that people bought it. The ectoplasm is cotton coming out of folks' nose.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's not the most convincing.
No, and that is one of the struggles we have with our seance, because we don't employ any modern, flashing lights or anything to try and fool, modernize. We're using things, like I've got a baby rattle stuffed in my shoe, or somebody, I have a
okay.
Right, there's somebody who's in the audience who maybe they don't know that they're a plant, that they've got a bell attached to their toe. I mean, that's the kind of stuff we're doing. We we have a back room that a lot of visitors don't realize is actually an open room. So we'll have somebody back there literally listening at the door, and we'll give them signals and they'll start doing the wrapping. I mean, that's all the kinds of stuff that, that seances would have and mediums would have used in the past to help make it seem real. But we do obviously have, you know, we're so much more jaded now than they were back then as far as and expecting the special effects. So.
All right, thanks. And it's the last weekend of every October. It's going to be the 25th and 26th this year, noon to 4 p.m.
Right.
Really worth seeing. Check it out. But you need to get the website updated. They're still calling it this the 10th anniversary. It was the 10th anniversary last year. Somebody copied and pasted.
Yeah, we'll have to update that. But it's heritagesquare.org, and we're in Highland Park. If you've ever driven up the 110 out of downtown going towards Pasadena, and you look over to the right and you wonder, why are those beautiful Victorian homes right next to the freeway?
That's why.
That's Heritage Square Museum.
All right, thanks.
Absolutely.
Thank
you.